because I'm a lifetime resident of Sinton, Texas. And I hear you telling us that this drought has been going on for 4 years. And I understand the difficulties of Nueces County. But I also understand you guys have voted how many times to vote down the desalination plants? So, I'm coming and going like, okay, you guys are telling us now you want to come take the water from the Evangeline Aquifer, which is our source, because you can't go a desalination plant into service. So I'm going like, okay, well, why is poor planning on your part and emergency on ours? And so I'm just wondering if you give me those answers. I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, I'd love to answer that question. Thank you for that question. So one thing to note is that, and I love talking about it, but the diversification of a water supply is critical. You've got to have a diversified water supply so that you can properly manage it. I'm an operations guy myself, so I like to manage things. So how are we going to diversify our water supply? We need surface water. The city of Corpus Christi and the area has had that forever, as long as we've been providing water to people. Groundwater is another key component, and then you hit the nail on the head, sir. Seawater is critical. So if you look at your water supply portfolio as a three-legged stool, we need all three of those legs to stand up correctly. And I do know we're very excited. We've been working very hard under our city manager's direction to try and keep the Inner Harbor seawater desalination plant alive and moving forward. That is a fully permitted desalination plant. Our council provided us direction just last week to move forward to work with the number 2 proposer in our RF request for qualification process. So we are working diligently with them to provide the city council some assurances so the project can move forward. Additionally, there's more seawater plans also. The Nueces River Authority. This is Nueces River Authority project in conjunction with Corpus Christi is working on a seawater desalination plant at Harbor Island. That island, if you don't know, is near Port Aransas or Aransas Pass. It's a 100 million gallon a day facility. The city of Corpus Christi is participating in that project. We've provided what's called a reservation fee to provide some needed funding for that project to be moving forward. That fee would allow us an opportunity to utilize 50 million gallons a day from that project. So we're working with our partners closely to monitor that. Additionally, we have, it's been talked about a long time in the city of Corpus Christi, but there's a power plant on the south side, Barney Davis. We feel that could be a viable plant for a seawater desal plant, and we're investigating that right now. We're starting that process. It's a long-term project, but we're looking into it. So I'm glad you brought that up because we feel seawater is critical too. Maybe if you could stand up to the mic.
Just one more question. If you guys had started or done this desalination plant a long time ago, would Nueces kind of be in the predicament that we're in?
Yeah, one thing that I can say is, and honestly, part of that predicament is certainly the drought. Because if we had more rainwater over the western reservoirs, it would be a different situation. Additionally, and you can see I showed it on an earlier slide, there's 40 million gallons a day right now that comes into San Patricio County. We certainly understand the importance of home and the importance of a county perspective. However, I do want to remind everyone that Corpus Christi Water provides water to 7 counties and 500,000 people. So we can't look at it as a county perspective or view. So again, I certainly understand your comments and your concerns, but the key there is a diversified water supply so that we're better positioned to go forward.
So, get what you're trying to do is to show assurances to the San Pat community that you have their best interest in mind. And that, you know, for them to give you an inch and hope that you're not going to take a yard or a mile like we have in Nueces County. Putting 8 wells on 15.5 acres and then going back into the western field and monopolizing even greater and putting another 21 wells. I'm way off on that. 12 wells on 251 acres. Come over to San Pat and we have 22,000 acres. So understand there's a groundwater conservation district in San Pat that's going to hold the city to some regulation. When you turn around and annex yourself out of the county and into the city CCASRD to bypass that, and now the CCASRD has approved that annexation, and we've gone a little over a week now, and you still haven't provided any regulation for yourself out there. How are you going to be able to assure these citizens here that once you get your foothold in there, that's not going to take place there?
Sure, Chris. Thank you for your question. So a couple of things. The city of Corpus Christi owns the property in Nueces County where we are drilling. It was an inclusion into the Groundwater Conservation District, not an annexation. It was an inclusion. Additionally, I just want to add that the city continues to work with our hydrogeologists to better understand the aquifer in Nueces County, but also in San Patricio County. The production permits for now let's move to the Evangeline project. The production permits are in hand right now. The owners of those groundwater rights, we can call them the seller, we can call them the Evangeline Laguna. They have those production permits. Those production permits from the San Patricio Groundwater Conservation District puts a limit on how much water we can produce from that site. The seller, Evangeline Laguna, is going to continue to work with the Groundwater Conservation District on the additional permits required. And that process is ongoing right now.
Bill Partley, hydrologist, biologist, geochemist, petroleum geologist. 2 points. Basically, if y'all produce this water, the highest amount of arsenic in the state of Texas starts here in San Patricio County and goes down to the valley along the coastline. It was produced out of the Catahoula rock formation, which Lake Mathis and Corpus Christi sits on. And all of the runoff of that is what created the Evangeline Aquifer, all the rocks that are in there. The Goliad sand, the Chico, and the Witsit up at top. And the removal of this water will move. There's 3 types of inorganic arsenic that are there. The 2 that we're concerned with is the +6 and the +5, because they can't be removed from any type of filtration other than reverse osmosis. But once you start removing that water, it links up with the water molecules, and that bond is not going to be broken. So even though that y'all will produce the water, it'll be transported down to the water treatment plant, y'all are still got to be expelling that water out into the communities. It only takes 10 parts per billion of arsenic to harm somebody, to kill them in heart, lung, kidney, neurological, ovarian, lymphoma cancers. And people with private water wells will have the same type of contamination because the water will move after y'all oxygenated it. Also the people over in Mathis, y'all need to be concerned, because I don't know how deep that new water well that y'all are going into and doing, but y'all need to have some testing done on the water coming out. But you have to have the water well run for at least 10 minutes, so it's bringing the water up from the rock formation. And whoever's going to be doing your collecting out of these private water wells that you're saying you're going to be doing, they need to be ASTM certified. You can't have some Joe Blow going out there and picking up the sample. Then it's the salinity. Looking at the Steel Dynamics electric log, I pulled all the electric logs across this area that y'all are talking about producing from. And looking at the Steel Dynamics electric log, you can start seeing where the temperature and pressure starts increasing using the SP, and you're starting to see where there's an increase of the SP starting at 250 feet. And by the time you get to 500 feet, it's starting to get saline. And you only need 250 parts per milliliter in order for somebody not to be able to drink it. McCool told me that cattle can probably go up to 700 for a short period of time. But once you've got that water mixed up, and along with the arsenic, there's no turning back. You create a vortex through all this. And with that mixing, it's got to contaminate the water. So anybody further down that's got to be using that water, it's got to contaminate it. And they'll be in their water systems, and I don't know what you got to do to protect the private landowners. And if it gets into the food chain, people selling cattle drink this arsenic water. They get into the auction barn, get sold for meat. It gets into the food chain. You've got to be conscious of this. And so there's other ways to approach this, and I wish y'all would look at that.
Bill, thank you for your comment. Yeah, I definitely want to comment on that. First, Corpus Christi Water is a superior rated water system by the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. Let me repeat that. So Corpus Christi Water is a superior rated water system by the Texas Commission of Environmental Quality. That means we meet all state and federal regulations. We're very proud of that. Now, the other thing I want to say is that team is very well trained. They certainly know how to take water samples. They take it every single day. We operate a water lab that is state accredited and certified. Another comment I'd like to talk about is arsenic. Oh, very concerning, absolutely. What we found in Nueces County is there's a number of shallow wells that are high in arsenic. And we're thankful that we've been able to identify that and inform the well owner. It is definitely a concern. What we've seen in our wells, because they target the deeper formations, we haven't seen those issues with arsenic. And that those water quality samples will be online so that everyone can see them. Bill, you mentioned geophysical logs. Those are also critical. All the geophysical logs that we've drilled in Nueces County are on our website. You can pull them down and look at them yourself. We use that information to properly design the well so that we ensure a couple of things, that we're pulling the best water possible and better understanding and characterizing the well environment and the aquifer, specifically those confining clay layers. Additionally, those same tests would be conducted here at the Evangeline site. And one last comment, Bill, and I definitely want to talk to you more, but I think we should let someone else answer a question. But the Evangeline, you know this, the Evangeline Formation outcrops about 50 to 70 miles north of this project location. That's where the water is recharged, and then Evangeline down dips towards the Gulf Coast. So I certainly want to talk to you more because I love talking to people. So.
90% of the TCEQ's money that they have to operate with comes from issuing permits. We have dealt with those people for over 25 years up in Goliad County. The whole county turned out against this. Now, you're talking about...
I'm sorry to feel that way. I think very highly of the TCEQ.
Well, I can imagine that. But
But
I know people that have worked there for over 30 years, and they can criticize them too. So I know y'all like to think of them as great people, but they're not. And they're also the same ones that have allowed to be dumping 2,800 parts per liter, milligrams per liter of salinity into the Nueces River and allowing it to go down the Nueces River.
Bill, if we could talk, I just want to make sure other people have more questions, but I'd love to talk about that.
Thank you, Nick. And we do have time for about 2 more questions only, then we're going to turn over to the open house portion of this session.
Tim, work for Bill. Let him talk. Who work the truth?
I got something to say.
Yeah.
My name is Brent Casey, and I live in voting precinct 104, where this is all going to take place. I'm a small rancher. All this time, I came a couple of weeks ago, talked to the commissioner's court and all, but I never heard anything about the 5 wells that were drilled over in Lavani Park area and was producing major water. But because of the city manager and the mayor doesn't like this person that owns these wells, no, we don't want your water. Now, I get my water out of the ground. I'm over oil trash. You talk about all your little clay layers and all, you know all about it. We're in this drought. We don't know when the end's going to come. There's an hypothesis coming out now about the wind turbines causing the air mixtures, which is putting us more into a drought, and that's a big study going on. So right now, pulling this much water out from our land up here to go to down to service all the refineries and whatever else, and even to San Antonio, we got a problem with that because we're ranchers. That's our water. What's going to happen when it goes down? And you can't promise us that because you know good and well, we're in this drought, you said it yourself, we don't know how long it's going to last. What's going to happen, you start pulling down that aquifer, it collapses, the zone collapses. That's another thing. I'm not a geologist, I'm oil trash, but I know what I'm talking about. And I got a problem with that. And I wonder why y'all didn't mention the 5 wells that was given to y'all and you turned it down.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any wells that were given to us, and I certainly would have been made aware of them. We're very transparent. We drilled 8 wells on our Nueces County Eastern well field. We are projected to drill 12 on the Western well field. We may not drill 12. We may not need to drill 12. A couple of things to point out there. We are not providing water to San Antonio, nor do we plan to. The other thing I just would like to point out is that the goal, I go back to that diversified water supply. We need to have multiple sources so that we can manage them. The goal is not to develop groundwater and live solely on groundwater. The goal is to add groundwater to our water supply portfolio so that the people we serve, we can manage the time of drought. Obviously, when the western reservoirs recover, that is the least expensive water in our portfolio. And we will utilize that to protect all of our customers. So again, you've got to have those multiple sources to manage that resource and not rely just on one. Thank you for the question.
We have time for one more question, but just a reminder that if you didn't get to ask your question, we do have comment cards available.
Tim Stevens, Portland, Texas, lifelong resident of Portland, Texas, and a business owner at Navigation and 937 Corpus Christi Water. I like what I'm hearing tonight. I like the way you're working with people, working with individual well owners. You guys have been taking your licks. You're in the arena. You know, Teddy Roosevelt said, you guys are in the arena taking your licks. And I like what I'm hearing. I like your dashboard, all the web resources you have. Very good. Keep updating. Good stuff. A couple of questions I have is, why isn't the city working more with the port? You know, you're talking about how you're teamed up with everybody, the water service corporations and things like that. Why aren't we working a little more with the port on one project? And then also, you talked about how we curtail from the western surface resources to the eastern on your bar graphs there. What, if and when the Evangeline Aquifer project, yeah, there you go. So the light blue is more where we're drawing from now. When the Evangeline Aquifer project comes online, what type of thresholds would be in place to where you would switch off of the Evangeline Aquifer? In other words, if there was becoming a problem, what kind of thresholds would cause you to stop drawing from it?
Yeah, thank you, Tim. That's a great question. So, it is important. So the Evangeline project is not on this dashboard right now. It's not on there because it's not designed. It's not permitted. Once all that happens, then we will input that on the dashboard. The light blue, which is the eastern reservoirs or the eastern supply, which is Lake Texana and the Colorado River. So we have contractual water with Lake Texana that we take every year, but it's a finite amount, 31,440 acre feet. And then we have water rights on the Colorado, which is 35,000 acre feet. We like the contractual water from Lake Texana. We want to take all of that because we're paying for it. The Colorado River, because we have a water right, we want to take as much of that as possible. However, that is managed by the Lower Colorado River Authority, who does, lack of a better word, curtails us, advises us to not pump as much water during the drought conditions in that watershed. So the goal is to utilize that water because it's very consistent. The western reservoirs, like I said earlier, once they recover, we absolutely like using that water because it's the least expensive to convey, to pump. We use the Nueces River as a conveyance. So once those, so think of the light blue lines as more of a steady amount of water. The purple lines, once it recovers, we'll use more of that, which then in essence would push down the use of our groundwater supplies. Again, we don't want to use groundwater in perpetuity. We want to use it intermittently as needed. That goes for the Evangeline and the Nueces County projects.
So there will be thresholds in place that we would let them down so far as the quality of the process will be stopped.
Yeah, that's a great question. So a couple of things, and I want to point out the Evangeline project is not fully developed yet, so we don't know. I haven't test pumped, I haven't drilled any wells, we haven't test pumped the wells, so I don't have that number to put it in an operational plan. Additionally, when each well is drilled, water quality is done, so I don't have those firm water quality things to put it into a plan. The same is ongoing in Nueces County. We don't have those groundwater resources fully developed. Once they're developed, I can put it into a plan and manage it.
Can you answer his question about not managing the ports?
Oh, the port. Thank you. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah. So the Port of Corpus Christi is working with the Nueces River Authority on Harbor Island. City of Corpus Christi is absolutely participating in that project. We provided them a reservation fee and option fee. That was for $2.7 million to assist that project. The City of Corpus Christi does work with the port. I know our city manager works with their CEO quite a bit, and we do talk with them a lot. And they were actually involved. They had membership on the qualifications committee, selection committee for our Inner Harbor desalination project. So they were involved during that selection process as well.
So you're a customer, not a partner, right? You would be a customer, not a partner.
In regards to Harbor Island, we would be purchasing water from the Nueces River Authority, who would be managing that
I'm just
plant.
wondering about the politics of why you can't work together to build something together. That's what I was politics, two different paths of thought. It's like, why aren't those you guys in the sport are pretty powerful? Why are we doing separate projects?
Well, I think if you talk to the port, if you talk to the Nueces River Authority, of course, talking to us, and I talked a little bit about it, there's more than just one desal plant that's needed. So we are working together. In fact, that we all have different projects that we're working on, and we share information and work in concert together.
Thank you, Nathan. I am going to start turning it over to our open house session just because I want to be cognizant of everyone's time. You are able to ask more specific one-on-one questions with the experts in the room. And again, we have the comment cards available, but we do appreciate you guys for coming over tonight, asking your questions, and of course, listening to everything that Nick has said and our city manager. So thank you again, and please feel free to start walking around.